Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Road to Superman. This is episode 82 and we have some really positive reports to go through, and after the previous news about negative test screenings, this is what we want to hear. We also have a new look at David Corenswet, which seems to be kicking up a bit of a stir, but are people being overly critical, or does it genuinely look bad? But first, let's talk about the latest news about the brand new test screenings that have happened on the Warner Brothers lot. This latest report does come from Jeff Snyder, who I know is controversial, but he gets some information right. And as we talked about the negative test screenings from him, we should also talk about the positives. So as always, take this with a pinch of salt. He has said, "I spoke to someone this weekend who has seen Superman and they really liked it. They said David Corenswet delivers as the Man of Steel, and that the jokey moments I mentioned on my podcast, The Hot Mic, were initially viewed out of context, but worked much better within the flow of the edit. They compared it to how Gunn balanced the humor and drama in the Suicide Squad, saying it has genuinely funny moments, but it also knows when to drop the shtick and get serious. The current runtime is roughly 140 minutes. So a lot of information to unpack here, so let's get through each piece of information. The first is that they really liked the movie. That's a great start, especially after the previous round of test screenings reportedly having quite negative reactions to it. Now, David Corenswet delivering as the Man of Steel is of no surprise really. I think out of everything, he was the main component that I don't think people ever had to worry about. He looks like Superman, sounds like Superman, and is a really good actor, so no worries there. He says the jokey moments were initially viewed out of context, which I'm not really sure what that means, but it worked much better within the flow of the edit. And he compared it to how Gunn balanced the humor and the drama in the Suicide Squad, saying it has genuinely funny moments, but also knows when to drop the shtick and get serious. Now that's interesting because it's good that within the context the jokey moments worked better, but my initial reaction when hearing it compared to the Suicide Squad was that this wasn't really great news. I thought the story of the Suicide Squad was brilliant, but the humor really damaged the flow of the movie for me and my ability to stay absorbed into the plot of the film. On first viewing, it worked on shock factor alone as I was surprised by the jokes, but every other viewing just got worse and worse. But my issue was the type of humor used more than how regularly it occurred, and if I remember correctly, the balance between seriousness and comedy was pretty good, and that is the comparison this person makes. They're not comparing the type of humor used, but rather how the film goes from funny moments to getting serious. And that's what I need. I'm completely fine with funny moments occurring, especially in a Superman film, but as long as when the movie needs to get serious, it can actually get serious and allows us to be fully absorbed in the danger of certain situations. So this sounds completely fine to me. What you will see though is some fans seeing this being compared to the Suicide Squad and instantly go to the extreme and say Superman will be just like the Suicide Squad, when in reality all he does is compare the balance of going from funny moments to serious moments, and I think that film does it quite well. Now this report could be true, but it could also be false, just like I said with the negative reports in the previous video. Snyder is either hearing genuine information and the changes in the cuts are producing positive and negative responses from test audiences, or he is playing both sides so that he covers all eventualities, meaning no matter how good or bad the film is, he has covered all possibilities with his test screening reports. Basically, just take it with a pinch of salt. The final thing he mentioned was that the movie is currently around 2 hours 20 minutes long, but I don't really think the runtime matters too much. It's more to do with the pacing. I've watched films under 2 hours that have dragged on and seen movies over 3 hours that go by very quickly. As long as they tell the right story and don't waste the runtime, then the length of movie doesn't really matter. The other thing to note that other than the runtime, these are subjective reports. Even if Snyder is reliable, the source is giving their own opinion on the movie, so their judgment on what is good or bad could be different to all of ours, so you really just have to remember this when hearing these reports. Personally, I reckon changes had to be made from the test screenings, but it's impossible to confirm how severe those changes were. They could be from as simple as cutting a joke or two, or refilming a small scene, or adding an extra shot of something, to major cutting and reshooting multiple scenes. But I think we would have heard if any major changes were being made, and we haven't, so I assume these are just just minor changes that will help the movie flow better based on the test screenings that they've had. Now, we have heard from the official Superman Japan page that the film will release in Japan on July 11th, the same day as the rest of the world, and this is great news for Japanese fans. They tend to get movies released far later than other countries, so I'm glad they get to experience the Superman movie at the same time as everyone else. Now, a new image of David Corenswet's Superman has appeared on some new merchandise, and this has had some mixed reviews to it. Some saying he looks great and others saying it looks strange. Now, I'm of the opinion that this image looks strongly edited, but it really isn't anything to panic about or overthink about, but this is the internet. To not expect an overreaction would be delusional. This was on a label for a kid's backpack, so really isn't something to worry about. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you can't critique something. You are able to give fair criticism of something without thinking it means the movie is going to be terrible or wanting it to be terrible. So for me, I don't think the face looks real. It kind of looks a bit emotionless and fake. And my other two issues with it are probably the same issues I've brought up before. I think the trunks are too high up around his belly button, which I don't think works, and I will die on that hill. And I think the lack of definition in the suit doesn't help David's physique and makes this Superman look like nothing special, which I've always thought Superman needs to look. But like I said, this is just a label on a backpack, so this has no bearing on whether or not the movie will be good. As long as the actual movie is great, then I don't care what these labels on backpacks look like. The only issue comes if the film is of the same quality as this promotional image. And I just want to quickly talk about some of the comments I have received on recent Road to Superman videos, which I will say I completely appreciate as I love hearing your guys' thoughts, but some have said how I've changed my tune of late and am now far less optimistic for the movie than I used to be. But what you guys need to remember is that I can only form an opinion based on the information we have, so my opinion will change based on what we see. Going into this movie, I wasn't convinced by Gunn. He decided to no longer use my favorite version of Superman and had many decisions I didn't agree with. However, I have always been more than happy to be proven wrong. So I've been going into this DC reboot with an open mind, but with the strong belief that Gunn has to prove to me why his decisions were the best thing for the studio and fan base. And everything he has said about his Superman movie was promising, so I was naturally more intrigued. And throughout production, my excitement strengthened with the release of set photos other than the costumes of the heroes, which I'm still not fully convinced by. But other than that, I was really liking everything I saw. Then came the trailer, which I thought looked really good bar a couple of visuals, and it definitely increased my optimism and excitement for this movie. However, since then, the promotion for me has been going downhill and been honestly disappointing. So I'm kind of back to being in the middle, but slightly towards more positive. A first great teaser, but poor promotion since then has made me question how good this film will be. So I'm still excited for the movie, but I'm not 100% convinced by it. So I really need the full trailer to release for me to form a better opinion on this movie and hopefully bring back that strong optimism I had. And that trailer is rumored to release at CinemaCon on April 1st. And I hope you guys understand that and believe what I'm saying. I know it must be difficult to believe a voice behind loads of Superman clips, so I get those who doubt me, but I just want this film to be great. I just won't sugarcoat my feelings, good or bad. So let me know your thoughts on the new test screenings and this new image of Superman in the comments below. But that is all for today's episode of The Road to Superman. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you never miss an episode. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!